Hajime Nagumo woke up in a place straight out of a nightmare, the Great Orcus Labyrinth, a deadly world crawling with monsters. His mind spun trying to figure out what the hell happened and how to get out, but no answer came. Then, his attention shifted when he saw a cute little bunny nearby. For a moment, it seemed harmless, until it tore through two monsters like paper. Before Nagumo could even blink, a massive bear showed up, killed the bunny, and turned its eyes on him. Fear shot through him as he ran for his life, but the bear was faster. One brutal swipe cost him his arm. Desperate to survive, Nagumo used his transmutation powers over and over, shaping the ground to defend himself until the beast finally gave up and left. Bleeding and broken, he crawled into a small cave and passed out. When he woke up, he was lying beside a sacred stone that dripped holy water. Using it to heal his wounds and lift the curse, he slowly pulled himself together. Memories of the academy crept back, the mockery, the constant reminders that he was weaker than everyone else, and the time he spent reading about strange powers in the royal library. He had always been ordinary, nothing special, and now he was paying for it. As he wandered deeper into the labyrinth, old flashes came rushing back. 70 days earlier, he and his classmates had entered this same place, chasing glory and adventure. Back then, a kind girl named Emma had helped him when a monster nearly took him out. Even Shirasaki, one of the stronger ones, had checked on him. The group had worked together until they found a glowing glance crystal, thinking it was treasure. But the second they touched it, everything went to hell. The crystal warped space, and they were thrown into a pit swarming with monsters. The soldiers and students fought hard, Meld, Kaori, Shizuku, all of them. But the monsters were too strong. Even their divine protection spells started breaking apart. When chaos hit, Nagumo used his transmutation skills to hold back the creatures, giving his friends time to escape across a bridge. Just when he thought he could follow, something unexpected happened. One of his own teammates turned on him and hit him with a blast that sent him falling into the dark. The bridge collapsed, and Nagumo was gone. Barely alive and crushed by betrayal, Nagumo faced reality. Nobody was coming to save him. He had to evolve or die. He began hunting monsters, eating their flesh to survive, even when it disgusted him. Strangely, their blood made him stronger, giving him new powers: lightning, speed, and wolf-like senses. Using his transmutation, he built a gun he called Donner, loading it with bullets made from enchanted stones. Armed and hardened, he faced the same bear that ruined him before. The beast came at him roaring, but this time Nagumo was faster. Each shot hit clean, first the arm, then the head. The bear dropped, lifeless. For the first time since he fell, Nagumo stood tall, no longer the weak boy from the academy, but a survivor forged in blood and stone. Down on level 17, Nagumo drank water from the mythical stone and tried to calm his head. The place was darker than ever, every path blending into shadow, and even his own breath echoed like whispers. His mind kept wondering how long this hellish journey would drag on. The deeper he went, the worse it got. Less light, more monsters, no sense of time or direction. Then came the lizard, a massive scaled beast creeping through the dark. Nagumo stayed sharp, using lightning bombs to blind it before firing Donner with perfect aim. The monster hit the ground with a heavy thud, and Nagumo moved on. From one level to the next, he turned into something different. Colder, sharper, a man who refused to die. By the time he reached level 44, he'd cut down everything that came his way. Meanwhile, back at the kingdom, his classmates stood before the king explaining what had gone wrong. They talked about how they triggered a trap crystal on the 20th floor, one that teleported them straight down to level 65, a place no human had ever reached. Down there, they faced a beast called the Behemoth, so strong it made their spells look useless. The king listened quietly, then told them to keep their mouths shut. No one outside that room could know that God's chosen hero was lost in the dungeon. After that meeting, Shizuku stayed by Kaori's bedside. Kaori had fainted inside the labyrinth and hadn't woken for days. When she finally opened her eyes, memories of the fall came flooding back, Nagumo being struck, falling off the bridge, swallowed by the darkness. Shizuku tried to hide the truth, but Kaori's persistence broke her down. When she learned Nagumo was gone, Kaori fell to her knees, begging Shizuku to take her back to the labyrinth. While Kaori cried for him, Nagumo kept pushing deeper underground. He had no clue what level he was on now, maybe 50 below his starting point, maybe more. His body had changed, his mind too. Every battle made him tougher, faster, more in tune with his strange new powers. When he stumbled on a giant locked gate surrounded by statues, curiosity got the better of him. He used transmutation to force it open. Bad move. The statues came alive, monsters lunging from the dark. Nagumo didn't flinch. His bullets tore through them, each shot clean and brutal. When the last one fell, he realized the key to the gate was hidden inside their bodies. Behind that door, he found something unexpected. A girl trapped inside a block of stone. For a moment, he thought she might be some kind of illusion. But then she spoke, her voice soft and desperate. She said she'd been betrayed by her people, sealed away because of her vampire blood and healing powers. Her uncle and the ministers had locked her there out of fear of her immortality. Using his powers, Nagumo shattered the stone and helped her step free. She thanked him, her golden eyes glowing in the dim light. When she asked for a name, Nagumo thought for a moment and called her Yue, the name of the moon from his world. She smiled at it, and for the first time in a long while, the endless dungeon felt a little less dark. Their moment of peace didn't last long. Out of nowhere, a barrage of daggers hit Nagumo from behind, cutting deep into his back. Blood soaked his clothes, but before he could fall, he sensed something far more dangerous approaching. A massive scorpion monster crawled out of the shadows, its tail twitching with poison. Without hesitation, Nagumo tossed his coat to Yue and told her to climb on his back as he moved toward the creature. Even with his wounds slowing him down, he refused to back off. He fired Donner again and again, targeting the scorpion's legs and joints, but the bullets barely scratched the monster's metal shell. Jumping onto its head, he tried point-blank shots, but nothing worked. The thing just wouldn't die. With no other choice, Nagumo copied its magic technique, shaping stones into a shield around them. Meanwhile, Yue bit into his neck, drinking his blood to regain her strength. When her powers came back, Yue's eyes flared red, and she unleashed her azure blaze, a massive wave of fire that scorched the monster's body. The scorpion screamed, but even that wasn't enough to finish it off. Nagumo told her to do it again, and as the creature reeled in confusion, he took his shot. Donner's bullet tore through the scorpion's skull, finally putting it down for good. After the fight, Yue stared at him, confused why he didn't just run when he had the chance. Nagumo told her he wasn't that kind of man anymore. He'd rather face danger head-on than live in fear. Once things calmed down, Yue explained her powers. Her body could regenerate from almost anything. She also revealed something else. Every labyrinth was built by beings called Mavericks, creatures who once defied the gods and turned against them. These Mavericks built labyrinths to destroy the world, and some say they still live deep within them. Finding one might lead to the surface. Driven by that hope, Nagumo forged a new weapon, a sleek rifle he called Schlagem. As they traveled together, Yue grew curious and kept asking about his world. Nagumo told her about Earth, how he and his classmates were summoned by God 8 to fight demons. Unlike them, he wasn't a warrior, just a craftsman with little combat skill. He admitted he'd been betrayed by his own people, losing his arm in the process, but he didn't hate them anymore. He'd moved past it. Hearing his story, Yue's eyes filled with tears, realizing his pain mirrored her own. Neither of them had a home anymore, so Nagumo decided she'd come with him on his journey back. Later, they ran into a new nightmare, dinosaurs with flowers sprouting from their heads. Nagumo quickly realized the flowers were controlling them. Chased into a cave filled with glowing green crystals, Yue suddenly stiffened. A flower grew from her head too. She attacked Nagumo relentlessly while he dodged her strikes, and behind her, the true monster grinned. Yue screamed for him to shoot no matter what, and he fired. The bullet pierced the flower and hit the beast dead on. The control broke, but Yue wasn't happy about the near miss, scolding him for almost burning her alive. That night, after a rough meal of monster meat, Yue teased him, walking up close, her eyes glimmering under the dim light. Without shame, she undressed, standing bold before him and whispering her desire. By morning, the two continued their descent into the lowest levels of the labyrinth. Nagumo treaded carefully now, every step echoing through the dark halls. When they finally reached a large sealed door, a faint spark of hope lit up in his eyes. Maybe, just maybe, what waited beyond could be their way out. Nagumo and Yue kept moving through the dungeon without slowing down, pushing past every trial until they finally reached the 100th floor. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. The area opened up into a huge space, glowing with eerie light, filled with glass-like pillars that reflected their every move. For a second, they were both lost in the beauty of it all, but that calm didn't last long. The ground started shaking hard beneath their feet, cracks spreading fast, and from the crimson glow rising below, the real boss appeared, a massive six-headed dragon, each head glaring at them like a living nightmare. The dragon struck first, breathing fire and launching sharp daggers of energy. Nagumo and Yue didn't back down. He fired shot after shot from Donner, while Yue unleashed waves of ice that froze through scales and tore open flesh. But every time they landed a solid hit, the wounds closed back up. One of the heads had healing powers, keeping the rest alive. Nagumo caught on quick. Each dragon head had its own job, from attacking to healing to defending. If they wanted to win, they had to take down the healer first. They went all in on their plan, attacking the healer together, but the defending dragon jumped in front and absorbed everything, its scales barely cracking. The others followed up with tricks and illusions, and before long, one of them locked onto Yue's mind. Her body froze, her eyes empty. The dragon whispered into her thoughts, showing her twisted visions, memories of her being imprisoned, abandoned, betrayed. She broke down, tears streaming as she stood there, helpless and trapped in the illusion. Nagumo saw her caught like that and rushed to save her, breaking through the dragon's hold. He pulled her close and shielded her with his magic. In that moment, with chaos burning around them, he pressed his lips softly against hers. The kiss snapped Yue out of her trance, filling her with strength she didn't know she still had. Holding on to that spark, she wiped her tears and prepared to fight again, while Nagumo stood beside her, promising through his actions that they would survive this together. Empowered by their bond, Yue unleashed her strongest spells, lightning and fire colliding into a deadly storm that cut down several dragon heads. The beast roared, angrier than ever, firing a blast of red lightning toward her. Nagumo didn't hesitate. He jumped in front, taking the full hit to protect her. The blast burned through him, sending him crashing to the ground. Yue screamed his name and fired back with everything she had, but the dragon's hide was too tough. When it seemed like the end, Nagumo pushed himself back up, half dead, but alive. Together, they launched their final attack, his bullets piercing through the dragon's skulls, while Yue's magic tore its body apart from within. The monster finally collapsed, shaking the whole floor as it hit the ground. Nagumo fell into Yue's arms, completely drained. As they caught their breath, the massive doors ahead creaked open, revealing the heart of the labyrinth, the path leading straight to the Maverick's lair. Elsewhere, in the kingdom, Aiko argued with Pope Ishtar, refusing to send the students back into the dungeon. She knew they were still broken after losing Nagumo, and pushing them again would only lead to more deaths. The Pope insisted only volunteers would go, but Aiko wasn't having it. Furious and heartbroken, she stormed out of the chamber, vowing to do whatever it took to protect her students from sharing the same fate. The following morning, Nagumo opened his eyes slowly, expecting rough ground beneath him, but instead, he found himself lying on a soft bed. Confused, he sat up and blinked around. A bed? Out here in the middle of nowhere? That made no sense. But before he could make sense of anything, he froze. Yue was lying right next to him, completely naked. His face went red, and he shot up so fast he nearly tripped over himself. "Whoa, what the hell?" he stammered, grabbing his clothes and pulling them on in a panic. Yue sat up calmly, not bothered at all, and told him that they were in the Maverick's lair. After he had collapsed from exhaustion, she carried him here. Then she added something that caught his attention. The clothes he was wearing belonged to the Maverick himself. That meant the Maverick wasn't a monster, but a human. Trying to process that, Nagumo followed Yue as they left the room. What they found next was completely unexpected. A mansion, standing right in the middle of the dungeon floor. Luxurious halls, grand stairways, glowing lamps. It felt nothing like the hell they had just fought through. They explored the rooms until they reached one with a strange symbol carved into the floor. In the center sat a skeleton in a chair, perfectly preserved. As Nagumo stepped closer, light shimmered from the bones, and the soul of a man appeared. He introduced himself as Oscar Orcus, the creator of the labyrinth. It wasn't a live conversation. His words were a pre-recorded message, meant for whoever managed to reach this far. Oscar congratulated Nagumo for surviving, and revealed that the truth about the Mavericks had been twisted over the ages. They weren't evil traitors, but liberators who sought freedom from divine control. Meanwhile, far above, Kuki, Kari, Shizuku, and the other students were locked in battle against the behemoth once again on the 65th floor. This time, they refused to run. Kuki took command, shouting orders, directing attacks. Hayama distracted the monster. Shizuku slashed off one of its horns. Suzu raised her barriers, and Kaori poured her strength into healing and blessing their weapons. Working together, they finally brought the beast down, breathing hard but victorious. Back in the lair, Oscar's message ended as he passed his power on to Nagumo. He warned him never to use it for evil. The surge of magic hit Nagumo like lightning. Visions of the world's true history flashed through his mind, rewriting everything he had believed. When it was over, he understood the Maverick's purpose and felt something shift inside him. He and Yue buried Oscar's remains, keeping only a ring that could unlock hidden places across the world. Oscar had also taught him creation magic, the power to make anything he could imagine. Using this gift, Nagumo began crafting new weapons, learning new skills, and even consuming monster meat to strengthen himself further. Months passed as the two trained together, mastering their powers. When they finally stood ready to leave the labyrinth, Nagumo turned to Yue. He warned her that their path from here on would be dangerous, that the church, the kingdom, and even the gods might come after them. But Yue didn't flinch. Her eyes held the same fire as his. Whatever came next, she had already decided. She would walk beside him, no matter what. Shay stood frozen, her heart pounding as a monstrous shadow crept closer. Fear took over, and she bolted through the thick forest, calling for help. Just when it seemed hopeless, Hajime and Yue appeared, stepping out of the mist like ghosts. The monster flinched and fled, sensing their power. Relief hit Shay hard, but before she could thank them, the two simply kept walking, cold and silent. The air grew tense again when the monster suddenly reappeared. Hajime didn't hesitate. He pulled out his gun and dropped the beast with 2 clean shots. The fight was over before it even began. After catching her breath, Shay stepped up and introduced herself as the eldest daughter of the Halia beast tribe. She begged for help, saying her family was under attack. At first, Hajime didn't seem interested, but after a moment, he agreed to hear her out. Shay explained how she'd been exiled after her tribe's home was destroyed by monsters. She also revealed her rare gift, the power to control mana and see glimpses of the future. Her magic, called Future Sight, showed her things most people couldn't even imagine. Desperate, she pleaded for Hajime's help to save her people. When Hajime asked what he'd gain from it, Shay pointed out that the area he planned to explore was wrapped in a thick fog. As someone born in the sea of trees, she could guide him safely through it. Yue agreed, saying it would be smart to take her along. With that, the trio began their journey together, moving through the wild and taking down monsters like it was nothing. Over time, Hajime, Yue, and Shay became a strong team. Together, they cleared the forest of danger and gave the Halia tribe a chance to breathe again. One night, during a quiet break, Shay asked Hajime what he truly wanted. Without hesitation, he told her his only goal was to return home with Yue. Shay smiled and said she wanted to join him on that journey. Meanwhile, her tribe decided they wouldn't live weak and helpless anymore. Hajime taught them one harsh truth. In this world, it's kill or be killed. That lesson hit hard, and the tribe started training, ready to fight back. Soon after, Shay and Yue had a little sparring match. It was playful but fierce, and to everyone's surprise, Shay managed to scratch Yue's cheek. Before they could continue, Hajime showed up and asked how it went. Just then, the tribe arrived, dragging monster corpses behind them, proud and bloodthirsty. Later, they all reached the great tree, where they found a strange monument. Inside, Yue read the carvings, and realized the symbols belonged to other labyrinths scattered across the world. Hearing this, Hajime decided to explore them next. He told the tribe to stay behind, and keep training, since he might need their help someday. That night, Shay thought back to her mother's words, that she'd one day meet extraordinary people beyond the forest. Now she knew what that meant. She reminded Yue about their bet from the duel, saying she'd won fair and square. But Hajime brushed it off, claiming he owed her nothing. Shay didn't argue. She just smiled and said the future could change. With enough will, anyone could reshape their own fate. And deep down, she believed that, because she was already living proof of it. In the rocky stretch of Raizen Gorge, Hajime and his crew were grinding hard, searching for the entrance to the next labyrinth. Hours passed, the wind howled through the cliffs, and just when things started to feel hopeless, Shay's sharp eyes caught something strange. She yelled out, waving her hammer, buzzing with excitement. What she'd found wasn't just some crack in the wall, it was the real deal, the entrance they'd been chasing all this time. Hajime gave a nod, and the group stepped inside without hesitation, ready for whatever madness waited below. Right off the bat, Hajime handled a swarm of monsters like it was nothing. Once the dust settled, they stumbled upon a huge stone tablet covered in strange carvings. Curiosity got the best of Shay, and before anyone could stop her, she smashed it with her hammer. The whole room shook, and a voice echoed out of nowhere, saying it would repair itself eventually. No one was shocked though. They'd seen weirder things. With no reason to stop, they pushed forward, dodging traps and cutting down enemies as if the labyrinth itself was testing their nerve. It felt endless, yet after what seemed like hours, they ended up right back where they started. The same damn room, as if the place was mocking them. Meanwhile, far away in the Hylia Kingdom, Yuka couldn't sit still anymore. After hearing that Aiko was leaving on an expedition, she decided she was done waiting around. She packed up and chose to go with her, hoping to prove herself, and maybe make people understand that Hajime Nagumo had saved them once, something most had conveniently forgotten. Back inside the labyrinth, Hajime and the gang finally reached Milady's domain. The place was crawling with guards, blocking the path like an army of stone. Hajime told Shay to take the lead, promising backup if things went sideways. After a rough brawl, they cleared the path and climbed to the top floor. There, standing under the dim light, was Milady Raizen herself, the one they came for. Hajime made it clear he wanted the ancient magic, but Milady wasn't about to hand it over. She questioned his reason, and he laid it out plain. He'd been dragged into this world by some god and needed that magic to find his way home. But instead of answering, she laughed it off, and the fight broke loose. The battle was brutal. Milady's armor, made of Azantium, was nearly unbreakable, but Hajime spotted her weak point, her heart. Working together, he and Shay went all in, hitting the same spot over and over until the armor cracked. Finally, Milady fell. As her energy faded, she warned Hajime that ancient magic carried a curse. He was destined to become a god killer. Those words hung heavy as her body went still. But the peace didn't last. When Hajime entered the next room to claim the treasure, everything went sideways. Milady's body vanished, and another version of her appeared. She'd used gravity magic to cheat death itself. Before Hajime could react, a hidden trap went off, hurling him, Yue, and Shay out of the labyrinth. They crashed hard, eventually waking up on a quiet shore, tired but alive. Later, they reached Masaka Inn. Hajime asked for one room, thinking it'd be simpler. Yue, calm as ever, suggested two, one for her and Hajime, one for Shay. But Shay wasn't having it. She wanted to stay in the same room as Hajime, which immediately set off another round of bickering between the two. Hajime stood there, sighing, caught between Yue's cold glare and Shay's loud protests, wondering how a dungeon full of monsters somehow felt easier to deal with than these two. Ilwer Chang finally dropped his act and revealed who he really was, the big boss of the Furin Adventurers Guild. He sat down with Hajime, Yue, and Shay, trying to keep things calm as he explained his problem. There was a group of adventurers heading toward the northern mountains, and among them was Will Kudeta, the third son of Count Kudeta. They'd gone missing, and Ilwer wanted Hajime to find them and bring the boy back. Hajime didn't waste time agreeing, but before taking the job, he laid down 2 conditions. First, Ilwer had to make new status plates for him and his crew. Second, Ilwer had to follow Hajime's word whenever needed, no questions asked. Ilwer agreed right away, and soon after, Hajime, Yue, and Shay hit the road toward before heading for the mountains. Meanwhile, in the lakeside town of Aiko and her students were having a meal, but she wasn't in the mood to eat. Shimizu, one of her students, had been gone for a week, and she couldn't shake the bad feeling in her chest. As they sat there, the tavern owner came over and dropped some bad news. The town was running out of food since traders couldn't reach them with supplies from the mountains. Before anyone could process that, Hajime and his crew walked in. The whole room shifted when Aiko saw him. She got up, overjoyed, but Hajime just acted like he didn't even know her. Even while they all sat down to eat, he stayed cold and distant, giving her short answers and avoiding her eyes. The awkward silence broke when a Templar knight swaggered in and started talking trash to Shay. Hajime stood up, calm but sharp, and without warning, shot the knight down. The place went quiet, everyone frozen. Yuka remembered the time Hajime had saved her life from a demon, realizing this was no longer the same person she once knew. Hajime looked at Aiko and her group, told them not to get in his way, and promised he wouldn't hurt them if they stayed out of it. After that, he and his crew walked out into the night. Later that evening, Aiko sat alone, replaying everything. She could tell Hajime had been through hell to become like this. But while she was lost in thought, Hajime slipped into her room silently. He didn't come to argue, he came to explain. He told her about the aftermath of the Age of Gods, when the world fell into chaos and a twisted god used soldiers called liberators like puppets. Those soldiers were betrayed by mankind and vanished into labyrinths they built themselves, each one hiding a trial and granting power to whoever conquered it. Hajime said he believed those labyrinths held the key to returning to his own world. Before leaving, he told Aiko about the spell one of her students had cast on him, knocking him out. When her students offered to follow him, he refused, saying this road wasn't for them. Aiko, still worried but understanding, promised to keep her distance once she heard everything he had to say. While traveling aboard the Brise, Aiko told Hajime about Shimizu's disappearance. As they stopped for a break, Hajime pulled out his Ornis drones, tiny flying machines that could detect humans using peering stones linked to his own vision. Before long, he spotted signs of trouble, a dropped shield and a torn bag. That was all he needed to start digging deeper. As the group followed the trail, they found huge footprints from a 4-legged beast leading up into the mountains. The deeper they went, the heavier the air felt. When they reached a waterfall, Hajime sensed something off. Someone was hiding nearby. Yue lifted her hand, muttering a spell that peeled away the illusion of the rushing water, revealing a hidden cave behind it. Inside the dark passage, they found the one they were searching for, Will Kudeta. Hajime introduced himself, saying he was sent by Ilwer from the Furin Guild to bring him back alive. But Will was a mess, haunted by guilt, and convinced he didn't deserve to live after losing his comrades. Hajime grabbed him by the collar, forcing him to snap out of it and stop drowning in self-blame. Just when they thought it was over, the mountain started shaking. A roar split the air, and out of nowhere, a black dragon stormed in. The beast unleashed a blast of energy, and Hajime instantly threw up a magic shield to block it. The pressure was brutal, cracks spreading fast through the barrier. Yue and Shay jumped in, combining their attacks, Yue's Heavenly Calamity magic and Shay's Hammer Strike, to bring the monster down. It worked for a moment, but the dragon came back harder, striking Shay and sending her crashing into the ground. Hajime told Aiko and the others to fall back while he handled it. The fight dragged on, each hit shaking the mountainside. Finally, Shay got back up, charged with everything she had, and smashed the dragon's head in with a final blow. As the dust cleared, they realized the truth. The dragon wasn't just a beast, it was a dragon born under a curse. The creature spoke through heavy breaths, revealing that she'd been fleeing her home when a man in a black robe trapped her mind with dark magic, forcing her to obey him. Hajime aimed to end her life out of mercy, but Yue stepped between them, stopping him. The Dragonborn begged him to pull out the metal rod he had stabbed into her body before she shifted form. When she changed back, everyone saw her true self, a woman named Tio Claris from the Claris clan. She explained that the dark-robed man was controlling her people and planning to use them to attack Even after hearing all this, Hajime stayed cold. He told Will that fighting the army would only put him in more danger, so he had no plans to help. As he turned to leave, Tio's tone suddenly changed, and she started making wild, suggestive remarks about Hajime. He sighed in disbelief, grabbed her leg, and dragged her off, clearly done with her nonsense as chaos loomed over Ur. Aiko begged Hajime to help defend the town of Ur from the monster army closing in. At first, Hajime didn't seem to care, cold, distant, and not interested in anyone's problems, but his own. But as Aiko kept pushing, her voice cracking with worry, something in him shifted. Deep down, he still had respect for his old teacher. Eventually he gave in and agreed to help. Once he did, he took charge fast, organizing food, setting up defenses, and ordering women and children to be evacuated before nightfall. As darkness fell, Hajime climbed the watchtower, loading his weapons one by one. Sonobe found him there and quietly thanked him for saving her back in the labyrinth. Hajime, without looking away from the horizon, told her to stay strong and never freeze in battle. Encouraged, she nodded and left. Soon after, Hajime sensed someone hiding nearby. It was Tio. She stepped out, saying she wanted to follow him wherever he went, even devoting herself entirely to him. Hajime brushed her off, telling her to stay focused, not foolish. The air turned tense as the ground began to rumble. Hajime turned to the townspeople and delivered a hard-hitting speech that lifted their spirits. He reminded them of Aiko's courage, telling them that she was the reason they had hope tonight. His words struck deep, firing up everyone's hearts. Then, the monsters arrived. Hajime fired the first shot, a single powerful blast that dropped a demonic dragon from the sky. Yue and Tio followed with devastating magic, their attacks lighting up the battlefield. But the fight took its toll. Tio ran out of energy, and Yue's mana was fading fast. Seeing the front lines buckle, Hajime summoned his motorbike and took off with Shay at his side. Together, they tore through waves of monsters, cutting a path straight toward the one pulling the strings. On a hill in the distance, Hajime spotted a black-robed man watching everything unfold. He sped up, gunned him down, and pulled off the hood, only to see Shimizu, the missing student. Shimizu started ranting, saying he caused all this chaos to prove his greatness. He told them he'd gone north to capture a monster, but ended up striking a deal with a demon, all to get revenge and kill Aiko. Aiko, even after hearing that, still hoped there was some good left in him. But it was too late. Shimizu had lost himself. He grabbed Aiko, held a poisoned needle to her throat, and demanded Hajime drop his weapons. Before he could react, a dragon rider from afar fired an attack. Shay rushed in to protect Aiko, taking a hit herself as chaos erupted. In the struggle, Aiko was pricked by the poisoned needle. Hajime quickly used his healing magic to stop the poison before it spread, saving her life and healing Shay too. When Shimizu finally collapsed, Hajime asked if he saw him as an enemy. Shimizu, weak and fading, said no. But Hajime didn't buy it. Ignoring Aiko's tearful plea, he pulled the trigger and ended it. Later, as they flew over the plains on the Brise, Yue and Shay quietly realized the truth. Hajime didn't kill Shimizu out of hate. He did it to save Aiko from carrying the guilt of watching her student suffer to death. It was his way of giving her peace, even if it meant staining his own hands again. At the same time, somewhere across town, a young girl was being dragged off by strangers, setting the stage for more trouble ahead. Back in Furin, Will finally made it home, greeting the guildmaster Ilwer with pure relief. Hajime used the moment to ask Ilwer for a new status plate for Tio, making sure the team was fully set up. Later that evening, Hajime, Yue, Shay, and Tio gathered in a quiet room at the guild. While they talked, Hajime stood near the window, watching shady figures moving through the streets, clearly keeping tabs on them. Tio drifted into her memories, thinking about her father's words on how even gods had limits and that every evil plan met its end. She also remembered why she had volunteered to study alien beings, believing it could change both worlds for the better. The next day, Hajime decided to take Shay out for some fresh air, giving her a small tour around Furin. On her request, they stopped by the city's aquarium, where they stumbled upon a talking fish named Lehman. The fish explained how he got swept away by an underground current and ended up trapped in the tank. Amused but sympathetic, Hajime and Shay worked together to free him, eventually guiding him out into a nearby river. As a thank you, Lehman told them he'd seen a shady deal involving a young girl nearby, probably slavers, and warned them to stay alert. Heading back, Hajime caught a faint sound from the sewers below, something that felt out of place. Trusting his instincts, he decided to check it out. Meanwhile, back at the inn, Tio casually asked Yue if she felt jealous about Shay spending time alone with Hajime. Yue just smiled and said Shay's feelings for Hajime were real, and she admired how fiercely Shay put her heart into everything. Deep inside the damp tunnels, Hajime found the source of the noise, a small child unconscious and bruised. Carrying her out, he noticed her waking up slowly. Her name was Mew. Together with Shay, he fed her, cleaned her up, and made sure she felt safe. He could tell right away the slavers Lehman warned them about were behind this. After some thought, Hajime decided to leave Mew under the city guard's protection while they figured out their next move. Not long after he walked away, a loud explosion shook the streets. Hajime ran back and found the guard post in ruins, the words, "Bring the white-haired bunny girl if you want her alive," scrawled on the wall. Furious but focused, Hajime regrouped with Yue, Shay, and Tio, laying out a rescue plan on the spot. They moved fast, cutting through the slavers one by one, leaving no time for mercy. Hajime stormed through their base and took down the boss himself, rescuing Miu from her captors. Yue and Shay unleashed pure destruction behind him, wiping out what was left of the gang's den. Once it was over, Hajime floated down with Miu in his arms, landing beside the group. The little girl looked up at him with wide eyes, then hugged him tight, calling him Papa. Hajime froze for a second, caught off guard, but didn't push her away. And just like that, Miu, the girl who had nearly been lost to the darkness, found a new family with the most dangerous adventurer in the world. The crew was rolling along the Bryce, with Shay riding beside them on her motorbike, kicking up dust as they made their way toward Horaud. Hajime was quieter than usual, and the others could tell something was off. He had been here 4 months ago, and it clearly brought back some memories he'd rather not revisit. When they reached the outpost, he went straight to find Loa Bawavis and handed him a letter from Ilwer. The letter basically hyped Hajime up, listing all the wild things he'd done and painting him as a straight-up hero. Before anyone could chill, Endo showed up out of nowhere, all worked up about a demon attack near the labyrinth. The dude looked half shocked and half relieved to see Hajime alive. Without wasting time, he begged Hajime to help fight off the demons before things got out of hand. Meanwhile, the rest of the heroes were already scouting the area, following trails of monster blood. As they pieced together what was going on, a demoness appeared, cool and confident, telling them to surrender and join her side. Then she dropped a bomb, saying one of them had already switched over. Nobody bought her act though, and the heroes jumped straight into battle. The fight went bad fast. Shizuku got taken down early, and the others realized these monsters were way out of their league. Every time they hurt one, the demoness just healed it up like nothing happened. Shizuku, bleeding but sharp as ever, told Endo to warn Captain Meld about what was happening. That message would soon bring Endo face to face with Hajime again. Back in the fight, Kuki pushed himself to the edge, using his limit break to blow one monster to pieces. But the victory didn't last long. Taniguchi was ripped apart by the demons, and it broke the group's spirit. Shizuku slapped some sense into Kuki, trying to make him see they were in deep trouble and needed to fall back. Endo ran off to alert Meld, who went down swinging against a powerful demon so Endo could escape. At the same time, Eri and Hayami were freaking out on the mountain, thinking maybe surrendering wasn't such a bad idea after all. Captain Meld stumbled back to them, torn up and barely standing, only for the demoness to appear and finish him off right in front of everyone. Loa begged Hajime to step in, but Hajime brushed him off, saying those people weren't his concern. Still, Endo kept pushing, reminding him of the past, and finally, Hajime gave in. Back on the battlefield, Shizuku was barely holding on while Kaori rushed to help her. The monsters broke through their defenses, ready to kill them both. But then, out of nowhere, a metal rod crashed down from the sky, slicing through the demons like butter. When the smoke cleared, Hajime stood there, looking cold and ready for payback. While making their way down from the mountain, Hajime got an idea. He pulled out his pile driver, a heavy piece of gear with long metal rods made from compressed ore and coated in azantium. Using it like a massive drill, he tore through the ground and blasted upward, bursting into the battlefield like a damn superhero. Everyone froze when they saw him, Hajime Nagumo, alive and standing tall. Without wasting a second, he laid out the plan, giving orders to his team and keeping the toughest job for himself, taking down the demons and their boss lady. Chaos broke loose all around, but Hajime cut through monsters like he'd been born for it. He caught on to the invisible enemies hiding nearby and took them out one after another, clean and precise. The demon lady started losing her cool as Hajime kept pushing forward, killing off every last beast she threw his way. The heroes couldn't believe what they were seeing. Endo finally spoke up and told them that the man tearing through monsters was Hajime Nagumo, the same guy who fell from the bridge months ago. Hayami couldn't accept it, knowing he had a hand in that fall, but Endo proved it was real by showing Hajime's status plate. Meanwhile, Yue confronted Hayami, questioning his real motives as the chaos unfolded. Hajime hit the demon lady where it hurt most. He took out her healer, cutting off her chance to heal herself or her minions. Furious, she summoned a giant serpent that lunged at Shizuku. Hajime tossed her a sword mid-fight, and she sliced the snake apart like it was nothing. When the demon lady tried to escape, Hajime blocked her path and told her he'd already figured it all out. The monsters were made through ancient magic, something the demons had gained after conquering a powerful labyrinth. Then, without hesitation, he prepared for the kill. Kuki tried to stop him, shouting for him to spare her, but Hajime didn't budge. He raised his weapon and finished her off, ending it for good. After the dust settled, Shay used her healing powers to patch up Taniguchi and Captain Meld, bringing them back from the edge. The whole place went quiet as Kaori walked up to Hajime, her eyes full of relief. She threw her arms around him, thankful he was still alive. But as they moved out, the air between Hajime and Kuki turned cold. Hajime could feel the anger coming off him. The guy was still upset over what happened. Hajime faced him directly and made it clear they weren't the same anymore. He didn't show mercy to enemies, no matter what, and if Kuki ever stood against him, they'd fight. That broke whatever friendship was left between them. Soon after, Loa's army showed up, and before Hajime could leave, Kaori gathered her courage and told him she wanted to go with him. Hajime was gentle but firm, telling her his heart already belonged to Yue. Yue stepped in with a teasing smile and told Kaori she could come too, turning the tension into a quiet rivalry. With that settled, Hajime said they'd leave tomorrow, ending the long, bloody day on a heavy note. Remember Hajime, the same guy who fell into the abyss back in Season 1 and clawed his way out stronger than anyone thought possible? Now things are heating up quickly in the Hylian Kingdom. The Pope had just informed the king about the hero's return, and before anyone could react, the palace echoed with the sound of horns announcing their arrival. Princess Liliana couldn't hide her excitement.
I am so excited, I think I'm gonna...
And rushed forward to greet them, her steps full of energy and hope. A little later, Shizuku joined her, and the two began discussing the situation of the kingdom. During their talk, Shizuku revealed that Kaori had decided to stay by Hajime Nagumo's side instead of returning home. The news made Liliana thoughtful as she started to wonder how Kuki might handle it. Wanting to ease her worries, Shizuku assured her that she could handle whatever came their way. She also explained that Hajime was still out there somewhere, searching for a way to bring everyone back to their own world. Meanwhile, Hajime and his crew were driving across the scorching Gruen Desert inside the Brise. The heat was intense, and the mood inside the vehicle wasn't exactly calm. Kaori and Yue started bickering over Hajime again, each trying to get his attention in their own way. As their voices grew louder, Shay and Tio stepped in to calm things down, reminding them that Mew was sitting right there and didn't need to see another fight. Slowly, the tension faded, and peace returned for a short while. After some time, Hajime noticed something strange ahead. The sand began to shake, and before anyone could understand what was happening, a massive sandworm burst out of the ground, blocking their path. Without hesitation, Hajime grabbed his weapon and fired a missile, blasting the creature into pieces. However, more worms soon appeared, rushing toward them from every direction. Hajime stayed focused, using the mounted gun on the Brise to tear through the new wave of monsters until the desert finally fell silent again. When the dust settled, the group spotted someone lying motionless on the sand. Hajime decided to check it out and told Mew to stay inside for safety. As they got closer, Kari realized the man's mana was going out of control, and his body was on the verge of collapse. She tried several ways to stabilize him, but nothing worked. Finally, she used her Sanctorum ability to pull the excess mana out and seal it inside the holy crystal ring Hajime had given her. It was risky, but it worked, and the man slowly began to recover. After waking up, the stranger introduced himself as Bees Fjord Zengen, the son of a duke from Ankaji. He explained that his town was suffering from a deadly mana poisoning that was killing its people. The only cure, a rare stillstone, was hidden deep inside the Gruen volcano. Without wasting any time, Hajime agreed to help, ready to take on the next dangerous mission with his team by his side. After rolling into Ankaji City with his team, Hajime went straight to work like he always did. He met up with Lunsui, told him they were here to help, and didn't waste time talking about it. When they reached the spot, Yue started flexing her magic, pulling up a huge wave of clean water from thin air. Meanwhile, Hajime started tossing grenades into the water like he was fishing with explosives. The blasts echoed through the place until finally, a nasty slime monster oozed out from below, ugly, dripping, and clearly the reason the water was poisoned. Even after it showed up, the water still looked pretty bad, but Tio, calm as always, said the oasis would heal up soon since the clean flow was already running again. Lunsui, finally breathing easy, thanked Hajime for saving their people.
Oh, thanks, man.
And said he owed him one. After that, he gathered everyone in the hall and announced that Hajime's team would be heading to the Gruen volcano to mine stillstone, a rare mineral worth the sweat. Kaori stayed behind to babysit Mew, while the rest of the gang geared up for a walk straight into Hell's Furnace. When they reached the volcano, Hajime noticed the walls glittering like they were lined with treasure. For a second, he thought they hit the jackpot, but turns out it was just worthless pebbles. Someone had already cleaned the place out. Typical. So, he decided they had to go deeper, even though the heat felt like walking through a dragon's mouth. Not long after, a fireball came flying at them out of nowhere. Yue handled it like a pro, slicing it apart before it even got close. Then, as if the day wasn't hot enough, a giant flaming bull appeared, snorting lava and ready to fight. Shay, grinning like she'd been waiting for this all day, ran forward and knocked it out with one punch. The bull exploded into ash, leaving Hajime muttering that she probably enjoyed that a little too much. They took a short break to cool off. Well, as much as you could in a volcano. While sitting there, Tio said these challenges might be the labyrinth's way of testing them, seeing if Hajime could stay focused when things got messy. He didn't say much, but the thought clearly stuck with him. After the break, the team hopped on a metal boat and started floating across a river of lava, because why not make things more dangerous? Soon enough, the boat dropped down a lava waterfall and landed in another fiery stream, where the cave walls sparkled with real stillstones this time. It looked like they were finally getting somewhere, but just as they were about to celebrate, lava erupted around them and giant snakes burst out. Hajime opened fire, blasting them apart, but those damn things just grew back. That's when it clicked. They had to kill 100 of them to get the gems. Instead of panicking, Yue, Tio, and Shay turned it into a competition, racing to see who could take down the most snakes. It was chaos. Fire, lightning, and magic everywhere, but they made it look easy. In the end, only a few snakes were left, and just when Hajime raised his gun for the final shot, a sudden beam of light slammed into him, cutting the moment short. The moment that strange ray of light hit Hajime, everything went sideways. His body went limp as he lost consciousness, dropping straight toward the lava below. Yue didn't waste a second. She dived after him, catching him mid-air before he hit the fire. But that damn beam wasn't done. It kept tearing through the place, blowing up the rocks and shaking the whole volcano. Yue fought through it, her magic flaring as she did everything she could to protect Hajime. In the middle of all that chaos, Fried showed up like some smug villain who'd been waiting for his cue. He looked around, surprised Hajime was still alive after taking a hit from Uranus's breath. Hajime woke up, half dazed but still sharp, and the two locked eyes. Fried finally introduced himself. God's apostle, sent to punish anyone who went against their god's will. Hajime didn't even flinch. He made it clear Fried was his enemy, since he stood in their way. That one line was all it took to kick off an all-out fight. Fried blinked out of sight, using some move called Cosmic Rift, reappearing behind Hajime with a sneak attack. Tio immediately picked up on the danger, realizing things were about to go south fast. Her father's old warning rang in her head, that Dragonborns were seen as enemies of God. She knew if she hesitated, Hajime would die. So without thinking twice, she transformed into a massive black dragon, eyes blazing, ready to tear Fried apart. Seeing that beast appear, Fried hesitated for the first time. He could feel death breathing down his neck, and for a second, he thought about retreating. But before he could bail, Hajime jumped back into the fight, firing off everything he had. The cave lit up with explosions, flashes of magic, and gunfire. It was a brutal brawl. Fried and his dragons holding their ground, Hajime and his team pushing harder every second. Eventually, Fried realized he couldn't win this round and pulled out, escaping with his remaining beasts. Hajime stood at the edge, drained and swaying dangerously close to the lava. Just as he started to fall, Tio swooped in and caught him, saving him again. Fried, from a distance, admitted he might have underestimated Hajime, but he still wasn't done. Before disappearing, he destroyed the cornerstone of the volcano, sending lava surging upward. The heat spiked, the ground shook, and the whole place started coming apart. Hajime, battered but thinking fast, told Tio to escape through the roof. He left her with one simple message for Kaori and Miu: "See you later." Tio nodded and activated her pain conversion skill, powering herself up through the agony. She burst through the roof, wings slicing the smoke, while Fried tried to chase her down. But before he could reach her, Hajime's gear detonated behind him, setting off a massive chain of explosions that rocked the entire Gruen volcano. Back in the Hylish Kingdom, things were calmer but tense. Liliana watched Shizuku train hard, her sword cutting through the air with precision. The sight brought back flashes of their recent battle. When a stray cat ran past and disappeared, Shizuku turned to find Liliana walking up. They talked for a while, mostly about Kuki's absence, until Liliana mentioned the rumors, people calling Hajime Nagumo a heretic. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, Hayami started hearing a mysterious woman's voice whispering to him. She offered him a deal, his desires, in exchange for helping her reclaim the princess. Hayami didn't answer right away, but the voice stayed calm, saying it wasn't an order, just a trade where both sides win. Tio wasted no time and shot straight to the Hylian Kingdom. When she landed, she ditched her dragon look and went human again, bumping right into Kaori. Kaori looked tense, asking about Hajime and the rest of the team, but Tio told her to chill out. After a moment, Tio reassured her that Hajime and the others would be there soon, passing along his casual "see you later" to both Kaori and little Miu. Once things calmed down, the two decided on their next move: head to the Grand Gruen volcano, grab Hajime and the gang, and then take Miu home to her mom in Erisen. Meanwhile, Hajime and Yue were talking about how close they came to getting roasted alive in that damn volcano. As they replayed the chaos in their heads, Hajime remembered the escape plan: the lava, the heat, and the madness. They'd found a door leading to a weird room with a glowing magic circle, the kind that screamed, touch me, and hope for the best. The message carved into it talked about humanity's future and free will, which felt deep, but also suspicious as hell. Yue confirmed they'd cleared the place, and Hajime, being his usual wild self, suggested they swim through lava to escape. Yeah, swim through lava. Luckily, he had built an underwater ride just for that kind of crazy idea. But then, halfway through the plan, Hajime realized something was off. It wasn't a volcanic eruption. Something was pulling them down, like the world itself wanted them gone. So, they changed course and moved away from Ankaji, figuring sticking around wasn't the smartest play. They finally broke through to the ocean's surface, gasping for air, only to get ambushed by a pack of sea monsters. Hajime handled it like it was just another Tuesday. Then out of nowhere, Tio, Shay, and Mew dropped from the sky like a reunion scene that didn't care about gravity. The team regrouped and headed to Arisen, finally getting a break from the madness. Hajime handed over his proof of conquest, and the local commander stamped it official, mission complete. Then came the soft part, Hajime bringing Mew to her mom, Ramiya. Mew jumped into her arms like she'd been waiting forever. Even Hajime couldn't hide the small smile sneaking up on his face. Ramiya had a hurt leg, so Hajime picked her up to help, while Kaori tended to the injury and told her to rest for a couple days. Ramiya, touched and teary-eyed, thanked Hajime for bringing her baby home. Somehow, the talk turned into him becoming Mew's new dad. No one argued, it just fit. Back in the Hylia Kingdom, Yagashi ran into Aiko. They talked about how Hajime had basically saved everyone's necks, but Yagashi could tell something in Aiko had changed. She looked like she'd seen too much truth. When he pushed her a bit, she admitted that Hajime had been branded a heretic. That label hit hard, because it wasn't just against him, it was like spitting on the goddess of fertility herself. Aiko agreed, saying the king and his people were acting shady, too calm for something that serious. Then she dropped one last thing. Hajime had told her something about the god their church worshipped. Whatever it was, it left her feeling uneasy, like maybe faith wasn't what it seemed anymore. Hajime sat alone at the edge of a cliff, the night breeze brushing past him as he stared into the horizon. His quiet moment didn't last long though, because the rest of his team eventually showed up. Saji pulled out the pendant they got from the Gruen volcano and pointed it at the moon. The thing lit up out of nowhere, shooting a beam of light into the sky. Everyone froze for a second, caught between awe and emotion. Even Hajime, who rarely got sentimental, felt something stir inside. Later, they rode through a dark cavern on Hajime's custom boat, gliding over still water. But halfway through, Hajime's instincts kicked in. Something nasty was nearby. That heavy, black-red aura told him all he needed to know. Without missing a beat, he fired a missile straight at the source. The explosion lit up the cave, and just like that, the threat was gone. When the dust settled, they found the 5th pentagram symbol. Hajime didn't waste time. He used the last of the pendant's light to unlock the next area. The boat dropped through a tunnel and crashed into a pool below. Water came pouring down like a waterfall, but Yue handled it like a pro. As they went deeper underwater, the pressure built, and Hajime ended up carrying Yue on his shoulders. The others started teasing them, which got Yue fired up enough to snap back at Kaori. It was a rare moment of heat from her calm self. Things got tense again when a huge jelly monster appeared, its body oozing acid. Shay jumped in to smack it around, but barely scratched it. Hajime quickly threw up a protective dome, though the acid started eating through it fast. Magic wasn't working either, which made things worse. Then, the blob shifted, revealing its true form, a nightmare straight out of the abyss. The crew went all in, blasting it from every side. It exploded, but before anyone could cheer, the damn thing started regenerating. Hajime figured it out. The monster didn't have a single mana crystal. Its whole body was one. He tried burning it with his flamethrower, but that did nothing. Thinking fast, he found a way out below them, blasting a hole and diving through. They ended up back underwater, where Hajime dragged Kaori to safety and pulled her onto the shore. Before they could relax, he reminded her they were still deep inside the Great Labyrinth. No time to zone out yet. Soon, they stumbled into a graveyard full of old ships, and just like that, reality twisted. The place turned into some kind of illusionary battlefield. Waves crashed, swords clashed, and shadowy enemies surrounded them. Hajime and Kaori fought through the chaos, every move sharp and focused, until the illusion suddenly shattered, dumping them back into silence. After catching their breath, Hajime told Kaori the truth. He said Yue had saved his life more than once, and that his heart belonged to her, completely. Kaori took it hard, her smile faltering, but she stayed quiet. Somewhere else, a nun approached Aiko and lured her toward the divine mountain. But it wasn't a holy invitation. She tried to possess Aiko's body. Aiko fought back without even realizing how strong she was. Impressed, the nun pulled back and decided not to kill her, thinking Aiko might make a useful pawn for whatever dark plans she had brewing. Hajime kept trying to talk sense into Kaori, telling her she needed to think about why she really joined their team. He made it clear that his heart already belonged to Yue, and that wasn't changing for anyone. Even so, He offered to escort Kaori back to Yaegashi if that was what she truly wanted. However, before they could finish their talk, the world twisted around them once again. Suddenly, they were standing on a massive ship surrounded by lights, laughter, and luxury. Music echoed through the air as humans and beastmen danced together, celebrating as if all wars were finally over. After a while, the king took center stage, his voice booming over the crowd. Hajime assumed it was a victory speech, but the tone quickly turned dark. Without warning, the king ordered every beastman to be executed in the name of their god. The party turned into a bloodbath. Screams filled the air as knights drew their swords. Kaori froze, trembling and turning her face away from the carnage. Hajime stood still, his anger simmering as he locked eyes with a nun watching from the shadows. The stare between them was sharp and strange, like she knew something he didn't. Soon after, the illusion shattered, and they found themselves back in silence. Kaori was shaking, her face pale. Hajime pulled her close, steadying her. Afterwards, he explained that the illusion was probably the work of the god behind this world, a twisted trick meant to break people's faith. Together, they figured that the king's sudden hatred for beastmen must have been caused by divine manipulation, not his own will. Then, without warning, a strong gust of wind hit them, throwing Kaori across the room. Hajime barely had time to react before soldiers surrounded him. He fought them off fast, tearing through the ambush with brutal precision. When he finally found Kaori again, something felt off. Her voice was hers, but her words were all wrong. Some other presence had taken over her body, using her to mess with him. Hajime didn't hesitate. He promised to break the thing inside her without killing it, no matter how long it took. His determination paid off. The spirit eventually cracked and left her body. When Kaori came to, she didn't run. Instead, she leaned forward and kissed him, saying she wasn't leaving, no matter what he said. Her love for him was final. Shortly after, Hajime and Kaori found the magic circle and activated it, teleporting straight to the dungeon's end. There, they reunited with Yue, Tio, and Shay. The girls instantly started teasing Kaori, tossing jokes and challenges her way. Yue, half amused and half serious, even declared they'd see who'd win Hajime's heart. Their laughter broke the tension, and then the pendant of conquest appeared before them, glowing bright, their proof that they'd cleared the labyrinth. Before they could celebrate, though, the water around them rose sharply, swallowing them whole. Yue and the others reacted quickly, forming a barrier to breathe. That's when the nightmare returned. The Devourer, the same monster from before, resurfaced with a vengeance. Reinforcements led by Lei arrived just in time, buying Hajime a few moments to plan his final strike. With flawless aim and fierce resolve, he blew the creature apart for good. Meanwhile, back in the Nilai Kingdom, fear spread fast as people began vanishing mysteriously. Far away, the same nun who had appeared in the illusion escorted Aiko up the divine mountain. Her lord watched with cold eyes, seeing Aiko's defiance as a growing problem. Darkness lingered in the kingdom, and something far more dangerous was beginning to move. Morning came over Erison, and Miyu bounced into Hajime and Yue's room, poking and nudging them awake with her usual energy. Not long after, Shay and Kaori barged in, dragging Hajime out of bed and teasing him to join them for breakfast. At the table, Miyu got curious about Hajime's plans, and he casually said he wanted to build some new gear. She immediately jumped in, hyped to help, and breakfast turned into a playful mess as the girls ran around, playing tag and laughing loud enough to fill the room. Hajime, meanwhile, sat back, lost in thought, trying to figure out how he'd tell Miyu they were leaving soon. Out of nowhere, Ramiya rose from the water, thanking Hajime for everything he had done. That's when he realized she already knew about the departure. It hit him bittersweet, but she didn't ask him to stay. Instead, she told him to follow his own path, and Hajime felt a bit of courage build up. He decided it was time to talk to Miyu. Meanwhile, the other girls couldn't resist goofing around, each trying to get his attention, which made Hajime shake his head and laugh quietly. Eventually, Hajime pulled Miyu aside and told her straight up that he would be leaving the next day. She broke down, tears rolling freely, but after a while, she got herself together and gave him a brave, tearful goodbye. Hajime promised he'd come back with the team, bring her along, and take her to his hometown in Japan. Hearing that, Miyu finally relaxed a little, and he reminded her to help her mom and behave while he was gone. Over the next few days, Hajime spent time with his team, enjoying little moments, sharing plans about traveling between worlds, and promising Miyu that she'd see Japan one day. The team felt tight, connected by the goal ahead. One evening, Miyu called them for dinner, giving them a small happy break before the big day. When dawn arrived, it was time to leave. They said goodbye to Miyu and Remiya, exchanged heartfelt wishes, and set off, leaving behind smiles, tears, and memories. Meanwhile, Liliana kept to herself, uneasy after seeing Aiko get taken by the mysterious nun. Her dad's odd behavior lately made her even more nervous. On the Divine Mountain, Aiko asked the nun what she wanted, and the nun told her she wasn't needed anymore since she went off script. At the same time, Fried rallied his demons, giving a fiery speech that got his army moving against the people he considered heretics. Back in the Highlight Kingdom, a soldier named Jose brought shocking news to the commander. Several troops were showing signs of the void, a scary, unexplained thing. The commander acted fast, summoning dark magic experts experts to investigate and come up with a plan. He also wrote a letter for Duke Zengen and Hajime, just in case things went south. At that moment, Daisuke appeared, and tension spiked when Jose charged at him with his sword. Meld stepped in, telling Daisuke to run, but out of nowhere, Daisuke stabbed Meld from behind, leaving everyone stunned at the sudden twist. In the Hylia Kingdom, the girls were on edge, worried sick about their captain and what recent events might mean. Meanwhile, Meld somehow survived the sword thrust from Daisuke. He didn't waste a second, jumping straight into a fight against Daisuke, Jose, and 2 other soldiers. Meld managed to knock out Jose and the 2 soldiers, but the win didn't last. The knocked out soldiers came back to life almost immediately, and more troops rushed in, surrounding him. Outnumbered and knowing he couldn't take them all, Meld made a quick call and escaped through a window to save his own life. As he made his desperate getaway, Noint appeared, eyes blazing, fully devoted to Ahit. She went on the offensive, forcing Meld into an even tighter spot. Inside the Kingdom Hall, Daisuke ran into a mysterious girl who calmly revealed that Noint's attack had been part of her plan. She explained that Meld being out of the picture was necessary for their grand scheme to move forward. Meanwhile, Hajime and his team stumbled onto chaos of their own. About 15 guards were holding their ground against 40 aggressive bandits, refusing to back down, even with the odds stacked against them. Hajime watched them, impressed at their grit, until the bandits finally broke through the guards' magical barrier, leaving them exposed. Hajime didn't hesitate. He sped forward, firing the mounted weapon on Breeze, and wiped out the bandits in no time. After the dust settled, he told Kaori to take care of the wounded guards. Out of nowhere, Liliana appeared, running straight toward Kaori, and soon ended up meeting Hajime. He asked why she was there, and she explained that Aiko had been kidnapped, which clarified her sudden appearance. Inside Brise, Liliana recounted everything she'd seen in the Hylia Kingdom, the strange lethargy among the knights, her father acting weird, and the trail that led her to Hajime and the others. Hajime immediately offered his help, motivated by both responsibility for Aiko and his curiosity about the mysteries of the Age of Magic in the Divine Mountain. Elsewhere, Aiko finally pieced together the nun's cryptic mention of an irregular. It hit her that the nun had been talking about Hajime all along. Right at that moment, Hajime appeared, rescuing Aiko and taking down her captors. After reuniting, he explained exactly how he tracked her down, showing just how resourceful he had been. Aiko thanked him and apologized, but Hajime brushed it off, taking it all in stride. Their conversation didn't last long though, because the sound of the capital's barrier breaking cut through the air. Hajime warned Aiko that demons were attacking and the Hylia Kingdom was under invasion. He quickly told her to meet up with Amanagawa and the others, promising they'd talk more later. The urgency spiked when both Hajime and Aiko were targeted by a sudden disintegration attack. They dodged it just in time, revealing Noint as the attacker. Amid the chaos, Noint introduced herself as a divine apostle. She explained that her job was to remove unnecessary players from the grand plan of the gods, and Hajime had been tagged as one of those elements meant to be eliminated. Liliana and her friends were walking through the corridors of Hylia Kingdom when windows suddenly shattered, signaling the barrier had been broken. Liliana immediately got the situation, and Tio used a gadget Hajime had built to send urgent info to Kaori and the team. The message was grim. A huge horde of demons and monsters had gathered just a kilometer from the capital. After thinking it over, Yue and Shay decided to take action against Freed to get back at him for what he did to Hajime. They moved toward Tio, but Hajime quickly told her to focus on keeping Aiko safe, giving him the freedom to jump into the fight. On top of the tower, Yue and Shay dodged Freed's attacks with slick moves and fast reflexes, keeping themselves safe. Eventually, they confronted him and his forces head-on, but their attacks bounced off, leading nowhere. Freed saw the stalemate and ordered his right-hand guy to go after Shay while he focused on Yue. Yue quickly opened a portal with her spatial powers, sending Shay, the right-hand man, and some of his troops somewhere else, setting up a separate fight. Freed from Shay, Yue and Freed went all in against each other. Meanwhile, Shay's opponent tried to guilt-trip her about Katleya, who she had killed, but was supposed to be his partner. Shay didn't care, staying cold and showing no sympathy. He attacked, trying everything, but nothing worked on her. A stone needle managed to scratch her, but she instantly healed it. Seeing an opening, Shay threw him hard, and he didn't get up again. On the ground, Yue went full force to take down Freed's army and avenge Hajime. Her first attack didn't work, so she called the 5 holy dragons, completely wiping them out. Freed went berserk and fired a huge void fissure attack, but Yue survived, though she got hit by one of his dragon's horns. Using reverse revival, she got out safely, while Freed's old injuries flared, leaving him badly hurt. He took off, beaten but still alive. At the same time, Hajime faced off against Noint while carrying Aiko. He tried to get a reaction out of her, but she stayed completely emotionless. She fired a massive hellfire tsunami, but Hajime survived thanks to prototype protective gear he was testing, showing how quick on his feet he was. During their fight, Hajime asked why she hadn't sent him back to his world. Noint said Ihit had other plans. He wanted Hajime dead before he could finish his ultimate goal. Just then, she attacked again, but Tio appeared in full dragon form, blasting Noint back. Hajime quickly moved Aiko onto Tio's back and told her to leave, while he stayed behind, ready to face Noint one last time. While Tio flew Aiko to safety, Aiko was stubborn, insisting she wanted to stick around and help Hajime. After some playful arguing, Tio gave in, letting her jump in to take down anyone getting in Hajime's way. Meanwhile, Hajime was deep in a fight with Noint, and it was brutal. At first, it seemed like they were evenly matched, trading attacks like pros. but Hajime quickly noticed something off. Noint's energy didn't drop at all while his own was draining fast. Things got real when Noint started to dominate, blocking everything Hajime threw at her. On top of that, Hajime's limit break was ticking down, making the fight even tighter. Thinking fast, Hajime rigged some extra equipment and blew it up, taking the blast himself to hit Noint hard. Then he spotted a crack forming in her sword. Smelling the opening, he smashed it, leaving her weaponless. Fired up, Hajime went all out, hitting her with everything he had until she finally went down. Just after, a massive explosion caught his attention. He ran over and found Aiko and Tio standing there, both looking a little wild, but alive. Hajime couldn't help but respect Aiko for sticking it out. Then he noticed the ruined church, blown to pieces by Tio's amplified dragon breath. Hajime pieced together what happened. Aiko had used fermentation acceleration to make methane, which Tio turned into a literal demolition blast. The weight of it hit them both when Aiko realized the people inside probably didn't make it. Before they could stew, Tio pointed out a mysterious figure in white. Hajime, curious as ever, decided to follow it, figuring it would lead somewhere important. They ended up at a magical circle, and the group stepped through, getting dumped into a strange, mysterious realm full of secrets. Hajime wandered a bit and stumbled on a book explaining the Divine Mountain. It was basically a hardcore test from the gods to see who had real determination. Seeing the bigger picture, Hajime thought it was time to link back up with Yue and the others. Hours earlier in the palace, Shizuku had heard a loud crash and told Kuki right away. They gathered the others, realizing something serious was going down. Nia showed up, explaining that the Great Barrier was broken and demons were invading. Eri popped in too, saying they needed Mel's advice before doing anything, and everyone agreed. They started moving toward the center, with Jose giving directions and making sure they didn't waste time, but something felt off. As they got closer, Jose activated a light beacon, and in a brutal twist, all the heroes except Shizuku got stabbed. Nia rushed to help Shizuku, but instead of saving her, she stabbed her too. Then Eri revealed she had been running the show all along, pulling strings behind the scenes. Shizuku froze, stunned and betrayed, realizing just how deep Eri's plans went. Eri stepped onto the battlefield like she owned it, immediately locking onto Kuki and claiming him as hers. She spilled her whole plan to Shizuku, explaining that everything she did was to secure an eternal life with Kuki in this place. She bragged about using necromancy to make the animated soldiers talk through her spirit-binding spell, and even admitted tricking Suzu by pretending to be a friend to gain her trust. Her manipulation ran deep, and it was clear she had thought of everything. Just as she advanced on Shizuku, ready to use her magic to turn her into a weapon against Kaori and Liliana crashed the scene, throwing a wrench in Eri's plan. But the chaos only got worse when Hayami appeared from behind. Liliana's happy reunion twisted into horror as Hayami, under Eri's necromantic control, knocked her out with a single blow. Then he attacked Kaori, stabbing her in the back. Kaori fought to recover, but Hayami's relentless strikes kept her pinned, pushing her into serious danger. Kuki snapped out of his collar lock, bursting into the fight and freeing the heroes one by one. They fought hard, but the soldiers kept coming, surrounding them. Kuki decided to go after Eri himself, but Meld blocked his strike. Suddenly, Kuki's body betrayed him. He vomited blood from the poison Eri had slipped into him. She revealed it was just enough to weaken him, and then turned her attention to Kaori, planning to kill and resurrect her with her spell. Right on time, Hajime jumped in, taking control. He neutralized Hayami, while Tio and Aiko rushed to patch up Kaori. Hajime didn't let Eri wiggle out. He kept her cornered, refusing to back down. Eri tried to use Meld to take Hajime down, but Hajime was faster, and Meld fell. Not wasting a beat, Hajime pulled out his machine gun and shredded the surrounding soldiers with precise, relentless fire. Hayami made one last desperate attack, but got tossed right out of the church like he was nothing. Then Fried showed up, demanding Hajime surrender, pointing to the massive horde of monsters closing in. Hajime didn't even flinch. He called down a massive laser from the sky, obliterating the swarm and leaving a perfect circle of devastation around the palace. With the monsters gone, Hajime warned Fried to back off, or he'd face the same destruction himself. Fried seethed, promising revenge and vowing to make Hajime pay. Using the chaos as cover, Eri grabbed Fried and slipped away. Meanwhile, Hajime made sure the others were safe, sending Kaori to the mountaintop to get her wounds treated. Noticing Shizuku struggling with the shock, he went over and reassured her, telling her Kaori would be okay. His calm words helped ease some of her fear, even as the battlefield still burned behind them. The next day, Liliana went through the palace documents, piecing together everything that happened. She found out the king had been killed by the mysterious nun, who also grabbed Aiko and vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, Hajime climbed to the mountain peak to check on Kaori. Yue and the others met him there, letting him know Kaori was recovering, which lifted a weight off his shoulders. After that, Hajime talked with Aiko, running through all the chaos that went down. He asked her about the church and the lives lost there, and Aiko admitted she didn't feel regret. Hajime, looking out over the valley, told her she needed to carry that weight and let herself feel regret, because that's part of being human. Then he turned his back to her, quietly letting her cry if she needed to. Meanwhile, Kuki wrapped up training with Shizuku and was soon joined by Liliana. They talked about the recent chaos, the losses they suffered, and the weight of it all. Kuki voiced his distrust of Hajime, hoping Shizuku didn't get too close to him. Just then, Liliana noticed a figure descending from the sky. It was Hajime and his group, landing like pros. Shizuku lit up at their arrival, but quickly realized Kaori was missing. Hajime reassured her she'd be there soon. Moments later, Kaori crash-landed, and everyone went on edge, ready to fight. But it wasn't a threat. Kaori looked different. Shizuku ran to her, tears streaming, and hugged her tight. Hajime explained how they used magic to retrieve Kaori's soul and grafted into Noin's restored body, while Yue added that Kaori's original body was frozen and could be restored whenever she wanted. Shizuku thanked Hajime and the team for everything they'd done. Then Hajime revealed a bigger picture. They'd all been manipulated by higher powers, pawns in a larger cosmic plan. The news hit hard, mixing urgency and unease into the group. Later, during dinner, Shizuku asked Hajime where he was headed next. He told them about the Great Labyrinth, sparking a discussion. Hajime's old classmates all wanted in, aiming to grab the God's Age magic for themselves. After some thought, Hajime let them join, though Yue quickly realized he planned to use them as shields and decoys for danger. The mood lightened a bit as the ladies, as usual, tried to flirt and feed Hajime little bites from their plates. Shizuku stayed awkwardly on the side, clearly uncomfortable with the playful chaos. Tio even cheekily asked Hajime for a reward for protecting Aiko, teasing him for a firm spank. Later that night, Yue woke up to find Hajime gone from their bed. She found him on the terrace, calmly telling her his next plan. They'd finish today's events and then go get Mew. With everything in order, the group gathered, ready to set off for the Great Labyrinth, the next leg of their wild adventure.